Hello, hello, hello. How's everyone doing? Welcome back. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Appreciate you tuning in, plugging into this, whether you're catching it live or catching the replay. I'm really excited about this episode, this conversation, really. I think that's what I'm going to call it now. Technically, episode podcasting, but I'm starting to step away from the traditional podcast language because really my goal with this is to create resources and have conversations with people who are paving the way, creating environments, experiences that really support the movement, push the community forward, all those good things. And sometimes it's not necessarily a podcast. Sometimes it's brief conversation on the side, and we end up making a post about something. But this right here, back to the regular working while Black, speaking with Black leaders from all over the world. My guest today, I met through the Creator Accelerator program. It's that wonderful thing I was in for about 3 months where basically we're creating content for on LinkedIn constantly every single day, blood, sweat, and tears, all that stuff, all around a particular concept, all to build community. And this is someone who I was introduced with right before it started through someone else that I met. So I want to give a quick shout out to Evolve Benson. Appreciate you, Evolve. So I was in this group. My guest was in this program as well, and it was like, okay, y'all definitely got to know each other. If you don't meet in the program, you got to make sure y'all know each other. I'm so glad that they did this, and I'll get to them in a second. But first off, today's conversation is really all about safety. Really, the title is "What to Do When You Don't Belong in Work," but I think it all starts with: do you actually feel safe at work? It's easy to only think about safety as physical violence, but to be honest, safety, it could come in many forms. In the workplace, safety is often based on psychological factors like being your authentic self without fear of negative consequences. And to be honest, I see a lot of conversations about the importance of diversity, which is cool. That is what I want to see. But you know what? I feel like a lot of companies they fail to create environments where you truly feel safe, right? You can have all the diversity, whatever numbers and all that stuff, but if you don't create these environments where people actually feel like they belong, then you're missing the whole point. So today I'm actually sitting with Miller. Pronouns he, them, Miller. He's a CEO, alignment consultant of the Miller Consulting Group, founder, creative director of the lifestyle brand Dandy Studio, creator and co-host of an internationally celebrated podcast with his wife. This is a really dope conversation, and I'm excited to have it. So, without further ado, Miller, welcome to the stage. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well, man. Thank you so much for having me. Mic check. We feeling good. We sounding good.
We feeling good, sounding good. It's all good. It's all good.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for such a warm introduction. It's really dope to be finally be in the Working While Black. This is really incredible. I love what you're doing with this platform and the way that
Mm.
you're building this community, and like you said, building this hub of resources that folks can come back to and really get into these conversations as they apply and move through their career and move through life. So yeah, I'm ready to get into it.
Let's get into it. Yes, excited about this conversation because I feel like I'm gonna let y'all know watching live, catch the replay. This is gonna be a combo that it's not gonna be finished by the time this is done. We're gonna have Miller back because you doing a lot of different things, a lot of really important things, wonderful things, and impressive stuff too. I'm taking notes on your creative journey, just FYI.
Well,
Um,
I appreciate that. That's wow.
yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate the affirmation. What's up, Zephyr? Hey, we got folks already in the
Hey,
building, man. What's up?
Zephrine, what's good? How's it going? How's it going? Yeah, Zephrine, you already know. She's a past guest, too. One of my favorite people, too. Yes,
There's
love
so
when you
much
were on,
love.
Zephrine. Appreciate you. So, Miller, before we get into just everything that you do, everything you are, I guess I actually want to start with everything you are. I really would love to hear how you identify. Just to add more context, I love everyone watching to tune in and add to this as well. It's not just a Miller and I conversation. We're all talking right now. So this question was honestly inspired by Jusana McDaniel, who, while in Atlanta, observed the many ways that Black people existed outside of the monolithic idea of what it means to be Black. So when you think about just the ways that you can exist, your interests, your beliefs, your characteristics, hobbies, practices, all these things, how do you identify?
Well, let me tell you, when we talked about the possibility of this question being in the mix, I immediately got a little nervous because usually when people are asking this question, it's rooted in some sort of there's something that they're really wanting to know and they just don't want to ask, so then they frame it in this way and hope that you share. And so I really appreciate the I really appreciate the intentionality that you have and how you frame the conversation and just letting know where we are, because you're 100% correct. Black people are not a monolith. And if I were to think about, how I would identify, and it's changed, over the course of time. It grows with me. It continues to naturally expand. And so I would identify as a collaborator, um, a student, you know, someone human. Human is a big part, something that I even began to be even more grateful for, my humanity and my humanness and my personhood, as we went through the LinkedIn Creator Accelerator. I would also say I'm curious. I'm someone, I identify as a curious person, and just really eager about what is possible. And so I won't know that I can. I don't know that I can go as far as to say I'm an optimist. I'm just going to throw it out there right now. I am a Capricorn, so that comes with a certain level of realism I just haven't been able to shake in life. But yeah, I think all of those things, and of course, I'm a spouse, and a husband, and the oldest of several siblings that I love dearly. I'm I think, even thinking about this from the last thing that I think I'll say is, and before we get into I want to be able to make a distinction between myself as a human and the work that I do. Like, I am not my work. And so I think that a lot of times Black people have been synonymous with some form of productivity, or uh, what they can do, or how they can produce, or whatever the case may be. And I don't want that to be the only thing, or the major thing of who I am and how I identify as a Black person in this world. So thank you for the question.
Thank you for that answer. I don't believe in perfect answers, just what comes naturally. And I love all of that. That last part, I'm not my work. That is so powerful. And it's like we easily fall into these labels, these quick descriptions, because it's easy. It's easy for me to say, yeah, I'm a podcast producer. That's what I am, because that's my job title. But that's not all that I am. Like, I have interests that span past podcasting, content creation altogether. Like, there's a whole other side to me that's like, I don't know, this content sounds cool, but yeah, no, I actually like it here. But yeah, there's like other interests and sides and everything. We don't always let that shine. It's like we really do live life around our work, our job, the things we honestly have to do, for most of us have to do in order to just exist. But that's not just us. So I really appreciate that you took the time to really state that right up front. That's important, especially knowing all the different things you're doing.
Because I mean, that's it. Because it's like, and I think later we'll talk about why I do, or how I've acquired the skills that I've been able to acquire to do some of the things that we've been able to do. That's right. Like, what I'm saying? I see Rashida Conway Miller in the audience talk about it. Exactly. I think we got to be able to think about and feel who we are, and be who we are outside of the workplace. Who we are and how we're expected to show up in the workplace, and how we do show up in the workplace. We got to be able to exist outside of that space.
Mm. So, how long did it take you to come to this kind of mindset?
I mean, I feel like I'm still coming into this mindset. I feel like I'm still
Mm,
growing into it, because they say we're all a work in progress, right? And so if I were to think about that and really put that into perspective, it's something that's constantly in motion. So there's a inertia to it that exists, right? But I
mm,
think it really became uh prevalent and real when probably around 2018 ish, so 4 years ago,
mm.
is when it really became like, oh, like actually this workspace, you know what I'm saying, sometimes these jobs ain't loyal, and
Yo, I like that.
Ah, and you know what I'm saying. And I learned that the hard way. I didn't really have a plan in place for the events that ensued and that began to happen around that time in my career. And so I was just like, oh, whoa. So when this experience happened, and I was like, who am I? And the fact that that question was a question that I was asking myself as a result of a workplace experience that I found to be unfavorable.
Mm,
Like, oh no, and so I had to really, really sit with that and reconcile with this idea that I was deeply rooted. My identity was deeply rooted in the titles that I could accumulate, the work that I was able to do, and what I was able to produce. And it just caused me to go into this deep spiral, a really deep depression. And my wife at the time, who I'm just so grateful that she still married me, because let me say this, I had to walk away from a role, which meant that there was no plan what the finances was going to be. There was nothing, and she still said, "Yes, I am happy to and will and be honored to marry you." And so I'm forever grateful for her being able to believe in me and see me when I could hardly see myself, because I was literally,
mm.
if I'm not this and I don't have this title and I'm not making this money and I'm not able to do these things, then who am I? Uh, that was really powerful and really continues to fuel me. And she said this thing to me that I honestly will never forget. She said, "Don't die in a disappointment," and
You say that
we
again?
don't die in the disappointment.
Don't die
That is
disappointment.
yeah, Rashida Kambe Miller, and or as I call them, Rashida isms. That became the turning point that helped me see that I could be more than that who I am was not the work that I did. I am not the work.
Mm, mm. I like that
I did
Rashida isms. Do the
love.
work. I'm not the work. I do the work. Oh, I like that.
Oh, that's now that one's a Millerism. Now
I said,
that's
okay.
saying we you got to be able to move though and understand that, and I think it allows for you to create more creative flow uh, when
Mm,
you can step out of the idea of having to be the work.
mm. I like that. I think it's easy to get trapped, get stuck in environments that you honestly don't want to be in, because sometimes it takes a lot of mental energy just to even realize that your current situation is not the one. That's not the one that's going to support you, take you to where you need to be.
Mhm.
I really appreciate you saying that, and I think it just completely just represents a whole, like everything we're here to talk about today, right? Just belonging, feeling safe, and just being true to yourself as well. Um, Now,
Yeah.
for everyone who's unfamiliar with the whole concept of psychological safety, I first heard about this term, I think maybe like 3 months ago, when someone was talking about it after they decided to leave their workplace because they realized that they didn't feel that safety. And so the description that Google presented me was psychological safety is being able to show and employ oneself without fear of negative consequences of self image, status, or career. It can be defined as a shared belief that the team is safe for interpersonal risk taking, and in the psychologically safe term, team members feel accepted and respected. Now, I want to get to your experiences in a second, but just real quick, just thinking, just sitting in this moment, hearing that description, what are some things that you feel called to, like, what's pop going on in your mind?
You know, it so much comes up, you know, when you start thinking about when you start really getting into these ideas and these concepts of psychological safety. And you know, there are obviously First Nations perspectives and indigenous perspectives around
Mm-hmm.
this work. And so I really, without really going like so deep into the science of it, I think what it boils down to is what's the access to resources, accountability, and support in a workplace. And what is the process for that? You know, do people feel comfortable and safe enough to be able to say they don't understand something, that they need help, um, even if they don't quite know what the help is that they need? And so I think being able to create these containers and these spaces of exploration and curiosity and expansiveness is really where you can begin to cultivate some of these concepts and these ideas that are hot topics or really coming up in the equity and inclusion spaces, or the, you know, in these people and culture and organizational leadership and all of these type of spaces. People are really starting to want to have a better understanding, and especially as folks are coming back into the workspace after having navigated the pandemic over these last 2 years, and just really figuring that out and getting a better understanding, boundaries, and what these conversations look like. There's a lot of fear.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, you know, at the end of the day, like, how are we allowing space for people to be human, uh, as they're also trying to show up in these different spaces?
Mm. You know, just being able to be human. That just brings me back to part of your answer on how you identify as a human, and I like that. I don't know if that was intentional, that correlation there, but what does that mean to you? Just being human and being able to be human.
You know, I don't know that I know. I think I'm still really a student of this. I think if I had to
Mhm.
do school all over again, I would, you know, instead of psychology, I would probably go sociology, or with a mix of anthropology, and just really just to be able to anything that I can do and to understand humans and and how we show up in the world and who we are as people. But where this idea is really coming up from is this, what I learned in the Creator Accelerator. You know, in doing that, and being in the front of quite a bit of content so regularly and consistently, I realized that I value my personhood a great deal. And
Mhm.
there were moments when in the experience that people would engage with the work or engage with the content as if they were only engaging with the entity, and not a person. And I'm like, oh no, and I've had similar experiences and feelings like that in the workplace, where I felt like it was just about the productivity and what you could produce, and how quickly you could, you know, move on to the next thing, and how many boxes you could check, and you know, how many times you would say yes to whatever request was coming your way, without any real clear boundaries or accountability or recognition or any appropriate compensation. I don't know. This is
Yo,
working on black rights. So I'm like, I mean, I'm trying.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it just really, and so those types of feelings, I don't like that. I don't thrive in that space. I don't feel my most creative. I don't feel my most connected to who I am as a person. And so I think, you know, like my shirt says, like, secure your mask first. Like, a lot of people, yo, honestly, like, people thought this t-shirt had something to do with the pandemic, and it just didn't. Like, I made this we dropped this t-shirt at the Daddy Studio like 2019, like well before, you
Mm.
know, And it really was about, honestly, it was really about when I would travel and be on the airplane and they would be like, hey, if you're traveling with someone who may need assistance, you know, secure your mask first before you assist someone else. And so that was really, I found that to be some very profound advice and knowledge. And so I was like, oh, I really resonate with that. And that's really what it represented. And what that means to me is like, as a person, as a human, what is most important to me is being able to have a true understanding of who I am, to be able to have an accurate reflection of who I am, and to be able to do that and be comfortable in that, even if I don't have this six-figure job, even
Mm.
if I'm not a CEO, even if, you know what I'm saying, your sayings wasn't fire, you was putting them on t-shirts that people are now literally wearing all over the world. Like, even if that wasn't a thing, even if, you know what I'm saying, you and your wife didn't have a podcast or a size inclusive lingerie line, or, you know what I'm saying, like, even if, you know,
I almost want you to keep going, yo. Even if what else?
I
What
mean,
else?
even if, like, and so, and I just, because people really try to play you with that old jack of all trades, master of none, you know what I'm saying, or oh, you can't focus, or oh, you can't, this ADD is really a hindrance. Like, people really, whatever it is, and it's like, nah, like, even if I put this down today, right now, not even tomorrow, even if I put this down today, right now, I am still Miller, whose
Mm.
pronouns are he, him, they, them, or my name Miller. And if you feeling of your most high, your excellence. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you feeling
Mm.
of high itself, like, I'm still that person. And so therefore my personhood is really the most one of the most valuable things that I'm cultivating and curious about.
Mm. You know, there's a full disclosure. I'm not like overly religious, but my grandfather, he's had a very strong influence on my life. Just he's the person who's really taught me the importance of understanding the definition of words and the power behind them. And he also would just throughout my life kind of share a certain something from the Bible that would honestly always resonate. And there's this one verse he read, and it's basically I don't remember word from word, but the overall message was a man who understands himself is greater than a man who could conquer a city, and
Mm,
I think first read that to me in college, and it's always stuck with me. And I think just as I continue to understand who I am better, the more confidence I become. Things that I was super insecure about, I'm feeling secure about. Just all these different things. The anxiety that exists still got that, but it's not as much in certain areas. So I really resonate that, and I love how you've shared. Not only are you a student of yourself, but curious about it as well, eager to really learn who you are.
yeah, yeah. I think that it's just being able to come deeper in that and getting closer to, being able to, like you, my grandfather has had a huge influence on my life. And it's so wild that you say this, because literally this weekend he just did something called an honor flight, which I never even knew. I'm just learning about what an honor flight is. And so I'm like learning new things, like, wow, this is incredible. But my grandfather, he is a veteran and a war veteran, and they do this thing where they bring together different people who have been through war, and sometimes you're with the people that you've gone with, sometimes you're with different folks from different eras, different wars, et cetera, and they essentially fly them over to DC to fly them over the memorials of these experiences. They get mail delivered to them as kind of
Mm.
like a of what happened. And so we all sent little letters and stuff. And yeah, like, and so to honor I think when we honor ourselves in a way. And the more we learn and understand about ourselves, the more we're able to do that for our families too, and the people that we
Mhm.
care about, and the legacies that they're leaving for us to be able to continue and all of that too. So thank you. That's real tender. Thank you.
Mm. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I love that part too. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Glad you got to participate in that too.
Yeah,
I'll say that's
and they called me. They did the little FaceTime thing from the airport, and I'm like, oh, like this is like really incredible.
wow. That's really cool. That's really cool, man. A lot of beautiful moments that exist in the world. Um, so honor. Yeah. Okay. So how kind of bringing back to the workplace, thinking about everything we've talked about so far. How would you like? What would you recommend to somebody who feels they may feel like they don't belong. They may not feel fully safe, and they do a lot for others. They're not necessarily in a position to leave their workplace just yet, but they do want to do something. Like what would and you could talk about your own experiences as well, but like how can somebody honor themselves, secure their own mask first, so that they can still just feel good and be good.
Yeah, well, I think first. Um, I used to run this series in my Instagram stories called Align and Shine. And every day I would start it out, be like Align and Shine, and we would talk about some sort of quote, or I was talking through a process that I was going through, whether it was building the Dandy Studio or what we were doing in the consultant agency, the Miller Consultant Group, and putting together different workshops or programs or whatever it was. And I would just go through and do that. And so I think really just start get curious, you know what I'm saying? Be mindful and generous with your curiosity. That's really the advice that I would share with folks. And more tangibly, what I mean is being mindful with your curiosity, like because of the identities that I hold, sometimes people tend to ask me questions that I feel are quite frankly disrespectful and inappropriate.
Mm.
And whether it's in the workplace, in a personal interaction, or whatever the case may be. And so when I say be mindful in your curiosity, recognize and understand when you're asking something because you have a genuine desire for understanding and growth, or are you just being nosy? Because there's a difference. And once people began to make those types of distinguish, is this something that you can explore and learn on your own, and then come back and be able to have an informed discussion versus you just expecting someone to educate you completely and fully, as if there's some major university that you're paying high dollar tuition to.
Mm.
So I would say be
Mm.
mindful of curiosity, and then also be generous. Like as you're learning, start sharing your learnings, like, because that's how you find community. That's how you find people who are doing and care about some of the things that you care about. So then you start engaging and you start sharing the things that you're learning, sharing the things that you're exploring, and then you begin to continue the conversation that way. And from that conversation, collaborate collaborate. Like I can't stress it enough. Collaborate, because the more people you can, it's like that African proverb, you want to go fast, go by yourself. You want to go far, go together. Collaborate. And that's how
Mhm.
to build interest and et cetera, et cetera. Now, that aside, right? When the environment is harmful, when the environment is toxic, when the environment is triggering, and people are out here really causing harm unnecessarily without any type of regard to accountability, there's no feedback, supports, and systems. You really got to start to think about, what is your plan? What do you need for your care? What do you need to take care of yourself? If being in a different space is what you need, how are you going to get there? Who's on your personal board of directors? I'm a recovering nonprofit professional, as they say, and and then those nonprofits, we talk about having a personal board of directors, right? And with that, these are people that you can go to. Sometimes you need to sit, cry, cuss, be silent, whatever, you know what I mean? How can they be of support to you, and utilizing those folks to be able to help you in that process, because it's hard. When I had the opportunity to do the thing, my goal since I was 18 and was deciding what I was going to go to college for, I wanted to make six figures. That was, it kept saying like, you got to make six figures. That's how I was like, that's how I was measuring success. And when I got there, I realized that it was never about the money. It was about so many other things. So I'm gonna pause that story because that's not the question that you asked me. I'm gonna pause there and make sure that we wrap up the things that I was saying, like understanding what you need for yourself and how you want to care for yourself. And if that's an environment that you want to get out of, what kind of steps, what kind of actions can you take to get yourself closer to where you want to be?
Mm.
Right? Be mindful and generous with your curiosity. So as you're exploring and you're learning different things, check your sources. If you're learning about Black people and Black culture, maybe learn from and pay Black people and Black people to, what I'm saying, be about that experience. If you learning about, trans people or Black trans people, maybe reach out and work with Black trans people. Ask how you can be of support to the work that they're doing. How can you, be in community and be in collaboration in that way. I think there's things that people can do. And so be mindful and respond, be mindful and generous with your curiosity. So share as you're learning. And I'm not saying overshare, and I'm not saying give everything that you have for free. Like if that's not how life is set up, like that's not what Miller is saying. Get them invoices ready. People want to pick your brain, as the late six-figure chick would say on Instagram. You want to pick my brain? I got an invoice to send you. I'm it's like, so,
Mhm.
and it's not coffee time. It's really about being intentional with these collaborations and accountable. And then the last thing that I would say for folks who are really thinking about wanting to do something different or be in a different space because the work they don't feel like they belong, or there's not been a concerted effort to ensure that that you belong. Hello, because it shouldn't be a mystery. It shouldn't be something that is, won't I belong? You know what I'm saying? And that it's not that. You either and when you and so you don't gotta gaslight yourself into feeling like it's you. It's not you. You belong, but perhaps this place is not willing to do the things that's necessary to ensure that you can continue to thrive there. So then let's get closer to that.
Mm. I felt that. Belonging shouldn't be a mystery. You should know. And if you don't know, I feel like your organization, it really is, I think it should be organization's responsibility to make sure that you do know as well. And if that's not the organization or that's not the environment you're in, but you want that, you go find that. I love that. You said something earlier. By the way, you mentioned like, I don't know if I answered your question. You definitely did. I feel
Okay.
like there was a lot of really great gems in that. And one thing you mentioned was people looking for answers to questions that they would pay a top dollar to a university. And that was really beautiful. Also, people feeling it. Zephyr saying recovering, the nonprofit. Yeah. Oh, that was really cool. And there's a few other things as well I want to tap into, but just that portion there, I think is just so powerful because I know every Black person has faced this in the workplace, but I think everybody, regardless of the culture you're in, the community you're part of, have gotten all sorts of invasive questions. And oftentimes it is like genuine interest, but it doesn't mean you have to answer it because you're right. People are looking for this mind bending information that they really need to go to school for.
And you got to be careful not to, tokenize and commodify people. You know what I mean? Like their experience and their identities. Like people got to be real careful of that. And especially for me, as someone who's often been the first and only of a lot of things, the first and only Black person, the first and only Black trans person, the first and only, and it's just like, oh my goodness, like how are we still doing that in the 99s and 2000s?
Mm.
So and so it's really fascinating that these are the things. And so sometimes people be so quick to throw up their black squares of inclusion, and of diversity. But I've said to people, like, for me, diversity should only come before equity and inclusion in the dictionary, because you know we we really got to be specific and clear about how we're showing up. And I do want to circle back though to the belonging piece. Like, also we have to, I think it's important to consider the environment and the level of awareness and understanding that exists there. And so being able to have tools to have these conversations and access these types of pathways for feedback is a really good opportunity. And it's not just your annual review, right? It's the designated time that's set in to check in and say, how are things going? Does this feel like we are in alignment? Is there something that you would like to see us do differently? You know, asking these questions, to be able to open that up as leaders and as people who are, even people who aren't leaders, to ask for that. How can we create these types of things to be able to talk about how I can progress in my career and how I can grow? Is a part of it. So it's not just a one way experience. I think that culture is something that is, it's an ecosystem. It's something that grows and expands throughout the organization from multiple different ways. It's not just one way. It's not just top down or bottom up or left right. It's kind of, how can we make it work all together?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
You
I
know what
feel
I mean?
that. I feel that.
Yeah.
But you mentioned something earlier, being the first, right? And I think it's interesting, like especially as Black History Month is past, but we're coming up on Juneteenth, coming up on Pride Month, all these months where it's like, okay, everyone's like, all right, let's get ready to celebrate, do the most, and all these things. But um, obviously, there's going to be, we already know what to expect, what's coming and everything. But when you think about being the first Black, I think a lot of people understand that. But being the first Black trans person, what you don't have to dive into all the different experiences, but just thinking about being the first, the first. What is that like?
Honestly, and a lot of times it is really a great honor and experience to be somebody, to have these opportunities come to me, and a lot of times have come to me through relationship building, through ease, through that way. Those initial experiences are incredible, and I want to be able to have more of those experiences, and for more people to have those types of opportunities, so that it's not a first and only, like that's not the experience. Like, I feel like it's not about being the first and only, you know what I'm saying? Because there's really room out here for all of us to shine and thrive and all of that, right? But excuse me, for me, I think where it becomes challenging is when there isn't a plan after the hire takes place. Like, and I think it doesn't matter what you're the first and only of, with whatever by identity or culture that's attached to that, whether you're a newcomer or immigrant, or the only Black person, or the only woman, or the only non-binary person, whatever the case may be. Like, if you're the only of anything in a space, there can be experiences of discomfort. You may not feel like you belong. And so what is that organization willing to do to ensure that, as we're bringing on this person as a singular individual, what systems of support and resources and tools do we need to ensure that not only they have access to that, but that we're continuously accessing as we're growing in the space together?
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's not just about one particular thing, accessibility. When you think about, we did an audio event on Trans Day of Visibility, the Miller Consultant Group, and it was myself, and a few other alignment consultants, Opulence Abundance, Cato Camacho, and Rashida Kame Miller, and myself. And so we were all on the call, and Opulence has shared this idea about, they had attended another workshop and they were talking about accessibility in restrooms, for example, and how if a restroom space could be bigger, how that would be helpful for a lot of people. Nobody wants to
Mhm.
go into a public restroom that's a teeny tiny stall if there's more
Nobody.
space for expansiveness, right? Like, I mean, obviously there's situations and circumstances that don't allow for that, but if there's space for that and there's a space for people to have more privacy and dignity as they're utilizing the facilities, that helps everyone. So the point was accessibility. When we make things more accessible, it supports everyone, not just a particular person. And so people think like, oh, when you hire a trans person, now we got to go and do all these special things. We got to do these special pronouns. We got to do these special restrooms. We got to do these special policies. And it's like, it's not that you got to do anything special. You just got to do what's right. You got to
Mhm.
prioritize people over profit. You got to prioritize someone's humanity and your organizational culture over doing things the way you've always done them. And then everybody wins. Who doesn't benefit in that system?
Everybody win.
I wait. I mean, who doesn't? I mean, who doesn't benefit? And so,
Mhm.
another thing that I would say, since you're thinking about people, like when you was asking like about belonging, like I think the thing that started to work for me is I realized this second time around, I needed to get serious about building my business. I needed to build a business that no matter what, we would not be in situations and circumstances that we were in and that we had to overcome as a result of not having this plan. And I'm still trying to figure this out because I mean, finances are hard, and I'm so glad like Megan from LinkedIn Accelerator is our, CPA, because I'm like, listen, holla at your boy. Like there, I know where my
Yes.
strengths lie, okay? And
Mhm.
I'm not a certified public accountant. But anyway, but when you're building, you build. I don't believe that I should have to choose at this point because of the situations and circumstances that I've overcome and that I've navigated. I don't think I should have to choose between being an employee or an entrepreneur. I want to do both. I
Mhm.
want to have space to be able to do both. I want to be able to build a business that has a team of folks that's helping to be able to grow and then lead a team and an organization through people and culture and et cetera, et cetera. Like I want to be able to do both, an employeepreneur or whatever the case may be. And I feel like I said at the beginning, because the experiences that I've had, I've seen life shift in a dime. And so I can't imagine putting the things down that literally saved my life.
Mhm.
These businesses, so like I can't just come to the workplace and the job and then you also feel like I can't build my business outside of my work hours. Like that just I need to be able to do both. I need to be able to do both. That's just that. Like, and so I feel like people have to be able to figure out what those policies are within their workplace structures. Read those handbooks. Is there outside work? Conflict of interest? What are those things in your handbook that are outlined, and get into those things to be able to understand how and what you can do to move around.
Mhm. I love that. It's the last live I did with Steve Worthy. We were talking about that, just building your brand while working full time. And one of the things he was saying is like truly, you do it to a degree, have to respect your workplace, like knowing the policies and things like that, so that you can. It's like respecting the workplace so that you can be your best self out
Period.
there and everything.
Exactly.
That's key.
Exactly. No, no. And then find people who are doing some of those things and ask them how they do it. How are you able to have this role and do the work that you do? Like what does that look like? How are you building that? You know what I'm saying? I think about Mike Yates and his get paid folder. Like I'm still,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Like what? Like, like I mean, I just think it's really fascinating because for me, it's important for me to have access to quality healthcare. And I posted that the other day. Like I've had access to quality healthcare that helps me and affirms who I am for the last 2 years. It hasn't always been that way. And when I had an interruption of employment and when that situation took place, it's very difficult to navigate the health insurance, or at least for me it was. And so just trying
Mhm.
to figure that out, these are things that are a little bit more streamlined for some folks in the workplace. And so just navigating and being able to be in that space. And I just want to be clear about that. Uh, that there's just things that for me I appreciate, and it creates for my personhood a sense of calmness and peace to be able to do both.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Yes, yeah. That, by the way, that employeepreneur thing, I feel like that's got to be the next line. I need you to drop that so I could wear it, man. I love that.
Because we out here, right?
We
Like
out here for real, doing great things, and all like I think some companies recognize as well that when you do truly empower and allow your employees to go out and do stuff, it looks good on the company. Like, yeah, yeah, that's all I'll say. But yeah,
skills, also gain skills, right? Like
you gain skills. Yes,
that's
yes.
invaluable. That's invaluable. Like I listen, y'all better get y'all some people that's out here running these businesses and creating this fire content and doing these things. Y'all better hire these people.
For real though,
These
for
people look,
real.
I mean me, look, like these people.
Hey, Zephyrin said it earlier in regards to accessibility, but yes, we all benefit for real. That's the message. That's the message of the day, y'all. We all benefit.
Period.
Be places where
That's
people
my
want you
goal.
to
Like I
thrive.
just want us all to be able to thrive. It
Hmm.
don't have to be, you know what I'm saying? I just want to be clear about the importance of collaboration. And that for me, when there were hard times and when I was having questions of whether or not I belong, being able to collaborate, like in some of my most difficult employment experiences, I've met some of the best people.
Mm.
I've built some relationships that I will cherish forever, you know? So
I
yeah.
feel that. It's all right. So quick shout out, Danielle Daniels. I appreciate you. There's no lateness. There's no lateness. You're here when you're supposed to be here. So I appreciate you pulling up as always. Yes, we're talking about a lot of things. What to do? We don't belong at work, man. So yeah, if you're catching this live, miss part of it, highly recommend tuning into the earlier parts. We'll be sharing more later throughout this year about this conversation. We'll definitely have Millie back. But I want to hear about the work you're doing. But before that, I really want to hear about this interruption of employment, as you put it.
Yeah.
What, if you're open to talk about it, I would love to hear what happened.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's tough. And I want to set the container first to say, like, when I talk about this, because I realize that there's this narrative around, people have this narrative that for a trans person is somehow synonymous with trauma. And I'm like,
Hmm.
like we got to stop this. Black people synonymous with trauma. Like anybody who's been pushed into the margins of society, somebody who, when you have a disability, and whether it's a visible disability or something that reflects in a different way, like it people somehow all of a sudden want to then, it must be so hard for you. And I talk about these stories and these experiences to help someone, one who may be navigating a difficult time or struggling with whether or not they belong in a particular space, particularly the workspace. I also want to say, like, when I say workplace, I really mean the world, like how we navigate, show up in the world as people, right? But and then the other thing that I want to say is, and I talk about this because to me, as I said, and I alluded to this, having gotten to the point where I was able to reach this goal to me, and that had been a goal since I was 18. And then it provided this opportunity for me to do something that I had only dreamed and didn't know was even possible, was to take first of all, to get my mom her passport, for her very first passport ever, and take her to the Dominican for her 50th birthday. Like, for my mother to wake up, and her birthday is coming up too, so shout out to my mom. But for her to wake up in another country for the first time ever in her life, and for her oldest child to be able to, you know, share that experience with her, that meant the world to me. And it unlocked just a different experience. And so that's what it meant for me. It meant that I could help more people. It meant that I could focus more resources into my business, and then pay people wages that they negotiate, or that we negotiate together, or whatever the case may be. It created opportunities, not just for me. So I want to be very clear about why that was important. Um, so then, to fast forward to, or to rewind back to this experience, what ultimately ended up happening was I started looking for a role where I could find, where the company provided gender affirming care. So I was like, and just for the people who may be coming into this space, as a content warning, I'll be talking about gender affirming care, talking about workplace violence. I just want to make just a mindful note that these are things that are coming up, and I don't want anybody to. We're not here to trauma bond. We gonna thrive through this, because I just want to say that on the other side of it, hello, we are skin looking good, like, you know. But not in all
I
seriousness.
appreciate that.
I just want to just set that container in that space. Thank you for the spaciousness to be able to say that. But essentially, so I started doing my research, looking for an organization that I thought was inclusive, and was ready to, like, do this work and be progressive and all of these different things, and have somebody like me who was curious and excited to learn something new. And so I thought I found a role, found a space. It was great. Reached my goal. I was like, boom, I'm killing it. This is, what I'm saying, we're really thriving. And then I had asked, I started with where I thought you would start when something like this begins. Human resources. I said, hey, I want to, human resources, and my direct supervisor saying, hey, will you, I want to ask for folks to use these specific pronouns for me, as well as only call me Miller, which, for context, Miller is my legal last name. So it's my family name. It is actually who I am. But I would only like for my name tag to say Miller. And, if we have space for pronouns, great. If not, like, when people are referring to me or interacting with me, I'd like them to use my pronouns. And, it was wild, because at the same time, this company was going through this very, like, public declaration about creating family and gender neutral restrooms. So, like, there was this whole thing that they were talking about, where they were having this conversation publicly facing, and then on the inside, I have situations like my HR rep one day coming into my office being like, excuse me, Miller, I mean, sir, I mean, ma'am, I mean, whoever you are today. And I was like, your face, like that. I'm sitting in my office at my desk, the doors open, people are walking by, and I'm just really shocked and appalled that not only is this an experience that I'm having, especially having been, as someone who's been known for doing diversity, equity, and inclusion work, and equity spaces, and holding these courageous conversations, and et cetera, et cetera. And so to have somebody literally walk in my office and be faced with this, and I felt like I had nothing to equip me for what just happened. I could talk about the experience if, somebody came in and gave me a derogatory slur around my race or ethnicity. You know what I'm saying? I could handle that. I was equipped to have a conversation about negotiating my salary and what that could look like from a wage gap. But this situation about this particular piece of my identity and my gender, I was like, whoa, what do you do? And the fact that this came from HR, where would you go? who to whom would you speak to about said experience? And I can smile about it now, but this was deeply devastating, and sent me into immediately it began to experience levels of what I felt like were harassment and harm in the workplace that were beginning to show up in other ways. Like I was getting physically ill. I was having breakouts that just I had never even had. And when it came down to it, my doctor, they were like, this is stress. These are all signs and remnants of stress. Chest pain that I couldn't that I knew chest pain. It was just ridiculous. And I was like, I can't do this. And with the support of my wife, I ended up having to uh, negotiate a separation. And uh from there, like I said at the beginning, there was like I still we overcame, but that was hard. And LinkedIn has this thing about career breaks and the thing, and I'm like, I would love to figure out exactly, for all the copywriters out there, like, how do you put that into a career break, that's it was tough, and it's still tough. And it hurt deeply to feel like I was being pushed out and gaslit and harmed simply for asking people to respect me for who I am.
Mhm.
Simply asking someone to honor me with the simple request of the name and pronouns. And I was even flexible. I'm like, I'm happy to figure out, maybe I can put together a training. And this is what we do, right? Whenever we want to advocate for ourselves, we don't just think about ourselves. We got to go and help everybody. And honestly, that 2018 situation became the shift, the catalyst for the shift in the Miller Consulting Group. And we really began to, while we offer comprehensive support for equity and inclusion work and cultural people and culture, we also have a deep focus for gender expansive learning and leadership, and making sure that we can help people create pathways of support and resources, so that these experiences aren't the experiences that people are happening. Because to me, if this was happening to me at this level of leadership, I honestly couldn't even begin to explain or understand what was happening to someone who maybe was hourly or working part-time. And
Mhm.
that's when it really became clear to me that I just can't sit back and not be a part of the solution, or do my part to do this work.
Mm. I feel that. I feel that. Uh, Rashida just commented that part, having to pick up the load of educating the harm doer and also be the person navigating the harm. Yeah, that's like, it can be done, but there's a cost to that for real. There's a mental toll. The mind is a very powerful thing, and I think we don't always correlate things like you mentioned, breakouts and things like that to um, a lot of the negativity that we're having to deal with carry as well. Like, that sits with you for a long time. You could get over it, but you're gonna remember that feeling. No, I'm great. I'm glad you're not in an environment where you have to do both of the healing for everybody. You just
You know,
focus on you.
it's the labor, right? And it's the unacknowledged labor. Because you fast forward to other situations and experiences. I mean, when I started reaching out and doing research and talking to people about their experiences, I mean, the stories, even on LinkedIn, the stories that people are coming and sharing about their experiences in the workplace. I'm talking equity and inclusion professionals, cisgender, transgender, it doesn't matter. Like, people are being treated poorly. One of the LinkedIn was so gracious to amplify one of my articles that was actually titled "People Over Profit," and I talked about it. The first line of the article is, "It's time to treat better at work. It's time to treat people better at work."
Mhm.
My next line was, "Especially trans people."
I love that. I love that.
It's time to treat people better at work. It's just we just have to. We need to, and we're going to. And I think that it's gotta be we gotta be willing to collaborate with that. So this idea of not. I just really want people to just understand that I believe that there is a way that we can do this, and we can do this with integrity. We can do this with accountability. We can do this with mindfulness. Um, and yes,
Mhm.
stress causes organ dysfunction and failure for being strong. It's difficult. Exactly. Yes.
Mm,
Yes. I mean,
yeah.
when you think about the health implications that are a direct derivative of stress, it it's a problem. And so you talk about, when you start looking at the life expectancy of Black folks versus our counterparts from other cultures, we got to really start to be able to think about our concern. The shirt I almost wore today was Black people deserve rest, because that's the thing. Hello, we do, and we need it, and people need rest. People need rest. People, and it shouldn't be a thing. Don't even get me started. Like I'm
Mm,
not even go down there. Y'all can listen.
that's the
Listen.
part too. What's that? For the
Wear your mask first.
yes, yes, Danielle. I'm really glad you shared that. It's really interesting because it's almost like the result of being strong and being resilient that we pride. And it is actually a really wonderful thing that we have been able to do that and get through everything. But I feel like now we're in this thriving mindset now, where it's like we don't need to always be strong. Sometimes, I mean, I'll say with coffee, of course, everyone's situation is different, but I really want everyone to get to a place where they can just be, not necessarily strong, but just be, because sometimes just being is healthier. I
Exactly.
love that, man. So, the LinkedIn Creator Accelerator program, you showed up, to that. I love the content that you put together, your team put together, really coming through to shake things up. I know there are a few things, just like little things that I hadn't even considered
Mm,
putting up there, just like adding my pronouns to LinkedIn. Um, just a lot of different things that is like things that's like people may not be against it, but haven't even considered doing it, and how that could be a positive reinforcement for others. So I appreciate everything, the just the way you were. But how was that experience for you, and what was that impact on your business as well?
I think the first and foremost, the experience was incredible. I had no idea that we would be, that this project would get selected. Like you said, I want to first, like this team at the MCG, we call it the Miller Consulting Group, the MCG for short sometimes. And I was just so grateful to be able to work with the brilliant folks that I talked about, that I mentioned earlier. Just want to shout them out again. Rashida Kambe Miller, who is also my wife and partner in life and in business. Opulence Abundance, who is just an incredible thought partner, cultivator of vision. Like this person, they really just show up in ways that are truly incredible. And then Cato Camacho, being able to work with him in the way that his mind works, and is just uh, a wizard, and being able to put information together. And most of you who do not know, I mentioned Rashida Kambe Miller, but as a partner and a collaborator with Queer Married, our podcast, and the work that she's doing at the Messy Movement Lab is just really phenomenal. Like, she's just so brilliant in the way that she holds space as a healer, dancer, artist, and author. So anyway, I think that when the program though was phenomenal. Like, and when you think about in the grand scheme of things, I don't think that we know what the opportunities are going to be that come from this. Like, I think those seeds are still planting. People are starting to reach out, asking more. Hey, we'd like to bring you in for pronoun practice. We'd like the MCG to support us with this. So I think those things are starting to grow and really expand in ways that we're really just starting to see come to
Mhm.
yes. I really appreciate the messages. Like people have been sending notes, like and commenting and talking about their stories, similar to what you said. Like people telling me, like, "Hey, I added my pronouns," or "I had this conversation at work," or I'm doing these different actions," or "Thank you so much for putting this out," or "I shared the pronoun practice guide." Like we did this 10-slide pronoun practice guide as a culmination. Thing went wild. Like, I mean, in the first 2 weeks, almost 10,000 views on it. People were just grabbing it. Um, I've and it also made me curious about LinkedIn because prior to the program, I wasn't super active on LinkedIn. I wasn't. And this really just created a boost in my engagement and activity. But then also, like I said, being curious and a student, I'm trying to figure out. So I want to be able to see things on LinkedIn. Like I want, if someone puts their pronouns in their bio, right? And it's public because you have the option on LinkedIn to make it public or only your connections or whatever the case may be. I want to be able to see your pronouns wherever. So as we're looking in the comments, right, and folks are sharing in the thing, if their name is there, wherever somebody's name is, I want to be able to see their pronouns if they make it public, right? Because if we can obviously, with consent, make sure that people understand that if they're public, your pronouns will show up wherever your name is, right? But I would love to see that because harm is misgendering someone, referring to them in a way that doesn't honor or respect them. That's harm. So how can we help reduce those opportunities by maybe giving people more exposure to how someone is wanting to be honored and respected in the space? And so when you ask me how the program is, for me, how the program was like, oh, this is great. Now, what else is possible? How many other people can we help? Who else can be supported by the things that have been learned in this experience? You know? So now I'm like, I mean, my people like, I only got on LinkedIn to see what you was talking about. I guess it's okay. It's cute or whatever over at LinkedIn. Like, I love it here. Like, I'm not, and they're obviously they're not paying me to say this yet, but I mean, LinkedIn, holla at your boy. I'll be with it. But
The yet part.
but no, for real, like this is the one of the most powerful networks. They describe it as the most generous social network, and I think that there's infinite possibility here as we're growing and learning and being able to create these connections and build these networks and collaboration opportunities. The collaboration opportunities are endless, and that's not to say that there wasn't some BS, and definitely some things that I haven't, and I'm still not quite ready to talk about some of the messages that I received and some of the ways in which people showed up in the space. And like I said, a disrespectful way. I haven't been able to quite wrap my mind around or even really process and unpack what that means and what that looks like. And so as I do that and as I grow through that, then I'll be able to have a different way of communicating in ways in which what I'm looking for as far as the ask of accountability.
Yeah. All round circle to or full circle psychological safety. Yeah. I like that.
Over here missing my mouth with this water. Like I was like,
I almost said nothing, but it's good, everyone. It's your water break, y'all. We're all going to drink water together.
Listen, human, okay? I'm out here. We gonna be human. That's
what we are.
I can do.
We're gonna be. Okay, so we've been going for a minute. We've been going for a minute. I feel like we're giving people a lot. I've been learning a lot just hearing you speak. But before we do go, a couple things. One, I want to make sure that everybody knows at least all the things that your hands touch. We've heard about the Miller Group. We've heard pronoun practice. We've heard mentions of Dandy Studios. I want you to take us down the list as far as you want to go. The different things that you do. We got time too. We got time.
Hey, I appreciate you saying we got time. I really do appreciate the spaciousness. What I was gonna say, first of all, shout out to whoever just purchased a Dandy Studio, made a Dandy Studio order. Shout out to
Hey,
notifications. I don't care what anybody say. I don't care how big it gets. I still, one of the things that I still want to be able to do is get excited when something, even if it's small, large, whatever, being able to celebrate those small wins is so important to me. And when people really believe in what you're doing, like if somebody buy a t-shirt, to me that's an affirmation that somebody be like, I believe in this, right? So that means a lot. But I think if I describe myself when I think about the work, like when outside of how I identify, I would say, social entrepreneur, content creator, mindfulness practitioner, right? And so people can things that I'm currently curious about, people and organizational culture, like what's happening in these workspaces, what's happening in the minds and in the ecosystems of these spaces, creative collaborations. Like creativity is just so dope, and people are out here doing amazing things. I mean, even just working with you, like the way you put me on the Notion, you changed my life in a week. I was like, wow, like why was I avoiding this? So, but had I not worked with you in this collaborative capacity, maybe it would have been longer. So creative collaborations. And then I'm really, brand inclusion and really looking at some brand partnerships. And so when you think about it more than what we already do, like, yeah, you can go to thankyou.miller.com. You can find me at Thank You Miller everywhere. Thank You Miller on Facebook, Thank You Miller on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Most of them I'm not active on, but they exist, right? You're Thank You Miller everywhere. And thankyou.miller.com, or the dandystudio.com, queerandmarried.com. All of those things are there. But like, I'm really trying to see like how can we collaborate? What can we create? What's the thing out there that we can do that people gonna be talking about, dreaming about 50 years from now, 100 years from now? Like, I'm trying to just be able to collaborate as much as I can with folks. And so so I mean, and then who knows what skills we create and develop and co-create. Like, that's really where I am with it.
Yeah, DM's open as long as you're respectful.
You know what I'm
I like
saying?
that. I like
Like,
that.
and really, you don't even got a DM, because usually on most of the posts, I put the email right there, support at
You
thankyou.miller.com.
do.
Website, you can hit the book page right there. Like, I try to make it real easy for you to find me and for you to collaborate. Like, let's make this real easy.
I love that. Love that. And Danielle, she shared, thank you for this. To pass through fear is to learn and stay open to learning and understanding. That's
That's
that's that's I love that. I love
a
that.
word.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right.
Yes.
So what man, that's gonna open a whole other conversation. But I'll say this. What yeah, to be honest,
Go
there's
ahead.
like so many. We got to have part twos and threes to this.
If it's the question that I think you gonna ask, go ahead, because I'm ready for this one. Go ahead.
You ready for this?
Yeah, I
I
think
mean, there's like three different questions because you honestly just more ideas just keep popping in. I'm like, that's gonna
I
be
want to
it's gonna
give
take
this.
us
I want
somewhere
to give
else.
this testimonial of how the curiosity is creating all of this creative energy and collaboration. Come on.
Oh, it's a web inside here, y'all. And actually, while I'm asking my question, y'all, we're close to closing up. Can't say what time in particular, but if you have a question, anything you want to add, want something Miller to answer something right here, right now, you go ahead and drop a comment. It might not get asked, but we do want to invite you to drop it in here. If we don't catch it right now, it'll be in the comments. It will still exist. We can get back to it afterwards as well. But I guess what I'll say is, what are if give us like five things right now that you would do if you found yourself in a position, you're at work, and you realize you need to go elsewhere. You might not be where you are for your creative passions, your side hustles, your entrepreneurship, but you do know that you no longer belong. You can stay, you can go, but you're just honestly lost and uncertain.
uh, first and foremost, maybe take some time to make a list about what it is that you like and enjoy in your role, right? The type of work. What is it that you enjoy? What is it that you like to do? Then go to your network and see, are there any organizations or companies that you want to work with? And do you know anybody that works there? LinkedIn is a great resource for that, right? Like you can go in and see who's connected, who's at the organization, if you're connected to any of those people, and then start reaching out to see if there are any openings, any opportunities, any ways in which you can be able to be supported. If you have already done the steps of, connecting with your manager, connecting with leadership, different things of that nature, try to move around. Maybe it's a different department within the organization that you're in. It's not always just leaving the organization. There could be a different department, because when you have a different leader, it could be a different experience. So look at all of those types of things. And I think that's a great starting spot for anybody about where they are.
You were ready.
Yeah.
You were ready. Love it. Love it. Thank you. Thank you, Miller. I love that's your username because it's perfect. Thank you.
Hey, thank you for
Zephyr
that.
says thanks as
Yeah.
well. Always a pleasure. Pleasure for you to bring part of this. Y'all got to get more of Miller and hear more about the stuff they're doing. You already know where to go here
Yeah.
on LinkedIn. Once again, the IG, Twitter, TikTok handles, all that stuff. Go ahead and get you a shirt. I need to visit that myself now because payday came the other day. So I'm about
Come
to drop
on,
some. I'm
come
about to
on, come
put a
on,
little
baby.
order
You
in.
did.
A little order in. Yeah, appreciate you. Appreciate you. Stay with me for a second. Quick announcement because I forgot to announce what during because I was just lost in it. Love this. There's a lot going on in the world. A lot of really cool opportunities. I appreciate all of y'all who come back regularly. Love it. I'm also part of the team putting together Black Writers Weekend, which is happening here in Atlanta. It happens all the time. And tomorrow we're going to be on Twitter Spaces. Really cool conversation with Tamika, Sandra, Talib, just talking about Black creatives and specifically creating spaces for writers to exist, thrive, and all that good stuff. So really excited just to hear about everything they're doing. And then also, I announced this previously, but in about a month, less than a month, it's coming quick, y'all. Marketing for the Culture Summit. It's happening. It's here by the African American Marketing Association, also in Atlanta. Or the event's also in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And there's a lot going on, but I'll just leave you with those two things. Um, it's an exciting time, a lot of really cool opportunities for to create support systems for us,
Mhm.
right? We're in this space now where you don't have to be alone. It might feel like it, but when you start looking, like you mentioned, Miller, looking on LinkedIn to see if there's organizations to be a part of, there's a lot of people who are doing the work to make sure that others don't have to go through the things that we've already gone through. So I'm excited to be a part of some of these things, excited to continue to share some more resources. There's even more coming, just the different things I'm not a part of, but I see. So I'm going to start being more intentional about sharing everything because you never know what someone's going to find helpful. Mil, you've reminded me of that during this live. So I appreciate you once again for that. With that being said, ready to wrap this up. Anything else you feel called to share before we go?
No, I just want to say, like, Black people out there, like, listen, um, like I said, Black people deserve rest. We carry, you are already carrying enough, right? So sometimes when you have a chance, allow yourself to be able to have access to that joy. Like, not only do we deserve rest, we deserve peace, we deserve joy. And it's not one or the other, it's all of them. We deserve rest, peace, and joy all together right now. Okay. Like, so I
Mhm.
just want to make sure that we leave with that, and that, because at the end of the day, we're all a work in progress, and we are we're human.
Mhm.
We're human. And so, at the end of the day, I hope that we all have space to be human.
Love that. Y'all. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. Hope you have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Hope you're able to just be human and be okay with it. Appreciate y'all. Catch you next